Welcome to Tigrai Television. I'm Mary Nimana will be presenting the news for you today. Stay tuned. Proceeding to the details, Tigrayan forces have started disengaging from different battle fronts according to Article 6 of peace deal reached in Pretoria. The fighters are disengaging from Zalambessa, Maiqnatal Hugum Berda Nebelet Bertakhlai Abergala and Churcher fronts. Military officials of the Tigrayan forces say disengagement shows commitment on their side to peaceful end of the conflict. Let's take a look.
Based on the agreement our government signed, we are withdrawing from the areas that were under our control. The government of Tigray and the federal government have agreed to uphold the constitution. Withdrawing from the fronts is an indicator that we want peace more than anything.
As a military, we give a priority to peace. Accordingly, we have accepted what the two governments signed and we are withdrawing. Our forces are withdrawing from the fronts happily.
War is destructive. It destroys economy and takes lives. We gain nothing from war. We are glad about the agreement. We are now moving back to selected areas.
The constitution will now answer what we have been fighting about. We have stopped fighting, and according to an order from the government, we are withdrawing from the battlefront.
We are withdrawing from the fronts because an agreement has been reached. The deal says that constitutional order will be restored, so we have accepted the deal, and we are withdrawing from the fronts.
Our reporter spoke with ranks of Tigrayan forces who say that they're leaving front lines for the sake of peace. The fighters say peace is in the best interest of the people of Tigray. Let's take a look.
Peace is good. War brings no solutions. We have suffered for 2 years to bring peace. What more do we need? My comrades and I were very happy when we first heard that both sides have reached an agreement. War only takes the lives of people. Since the peace deal has been signed, we are leaving the front lines. I don't have the words to explain how happy I would be if this peace process succeeds. We have to thank God for peace.
As to me, I'm very happy we've gone into peace after 2 years of struggle. We were one country. We both have paid heavy prices. Now we're happy. The suffering will end.
I want to say congrats to the people of Tigray. It seems the suffering of all Ethiopians will come to an end. Our brothers have died from starvation and lack of medication. Now we make peace. Everything will go back to normal.
Once we achieve peace, I want to go back to my job. I wish for the development and prosperity of our country. I hope this deal will bring that. I wish for a better future and a better country.
We've come to the mountains for the sake of peace. We came here because we can bear the atrocities that were being committed. We are now withdrawing for the sake of peace. We now speak with Ethiopian forces. We used to exchange gunfire in return. Now we are sending greetings one another. Peace is priceless. I want this peace process to succeed. We need this.
What we want is peace. What the people of Tigray want is peace. We're always ready for peace. The peace agreement signed must be appreciated. It is very good.
We are in this peace process. The past is already gone. We both need to forget the past. We had suffered enough. I wish a bright future.
Ambassador Fisas Gadom says Eritrean and Amhara forces continue to commit heinous crimes on civilians despite the agreement signed between the federal government and the government of Tigray. In his brief stay with Ma'ala Foresight, the ambassador said it's the duty of the federal government to evacuate these forces. Sablok Lama has more.
In an interview with Ma'ala Foresight, Ambassador Fisaha Asgadom said, despite the agreement reached between the governments of Tigray and Ethiopia around the beginning of November, Eritrean and Amhara forces continue to commit heinous atrocities on civilians in Tigray. The ambassador added that it is the duty of the federal government to put an end to this.
Both the Eritrean army and the Amhara forces should have been out of Tigray, out of Ethiopia by now. Not only they are there in Tigray, but they are also continue their heinous crimes against the population. People under their control are being killed, properties are being looted, there is massive kidnapping of young people whose whereabouts is not yet known, and also humanitarian deliveries, whatever a small amount is getting to Tigray, cannot reach those people that are under the control of the ADF. It is the sole responsibility of the Ethiopian federal government to take the responsibility to eject the Eritreans and the Amhara Fanos and others out of Tigray.
Ambassador also added that the agreement was reached between the governments primarily to silence the guns so that the people of Tigray could have respite from the excruciating agony they live in. He also said that any further hostilities means complete annihilation of the people.
Cessation of hostilities holding between the warring parties, that of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and the Tigray Defense Forces. That, in my opinion, is one of the most single outcome of this agreement. This cessation of hostilities is meant for Tigray people to have a better situation, to run their business, their lives, as opposed to continuation of the war. Therefore, it is not a matter of choice. If we have to continue to fight, and we have the power and the will to fight, we have no people to save. Our people will be totally exterminated to a level that we cannot imagine.
When asked about the issue of accountability regarding the crimes committed on civilians, Ambassador Fisaha said that the international community should focus on ensuring accountability and added that rights groups such as Ethiopian Human Rights Commission should be allowed to investigate crimes committed by both sides.
And this accountability issue is one of the things that the international community ought to give enough attention. Now that Tigray and Addis has made a peaceful agreement, the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia should be allowed and investigate the crimes committed by every party. If we are not committed to see that full investigation is done, and if we're going to allow impunity to continue, today it is against the Tigray people, tomorrow it will be against others. We all have to agree. We have to have a full-fledged investigation and a transparent mechanism of an independent nature that could prosecute those that are guilty.
It is to be recalled that it has almost been a month since the agreement was signed in Pretoria, and little have only been done to ensure humanitarian assistance reach millions in need.
A mother of two dies while in labor due to lack of medical supplies and transportation. In their visit to Abiy Adi General Hospital in central Tigray, Tigray television reporters recorded a tragic death of mother of two who died in labor due to redefining futures of the siege. Sarun Zagai has more.
It was on the 29th of November and a busy day at the Abiy Adi General Hospital, 85 kilometers away from the capital, Mekelle. Our reporters traveled to central Tigray to assess the current living conditions of residents since the signing of a peace agreement between the Tigrayan and Ethiopian governments. But what they witnessed was the tragic death of a young mother. Letta Mikael Gabra Mikael was a pregnant mother of two from the district of Qayih Takhli. Like many mothers in Tigray, she had been unable to get proper pregnancy checkups as health facilities in her area had been destroyed by the war. As a result, Letta Mikael was forced to give birth at her house with the help of her relatives. Having no one with a medical background present in the room, Letta Mikael's baby died immediately, and she was forced to seek medical attention elsewhere. Brahane Gabra Medhin, Letta Mikael's brother-in-law, remembers the moment as follows.
ليتي ساعة 7 يا وليدة كاو مس ولدت مرمي تقاطيموا.
She got into labor and she gave birth at around 1 a.m. after midnight. Her child died and she started bleeding non-stop. After that, at around 3 a.m., we started our journey to the hospital.
As no ambulances were spared from the war on Tigray and no vehicles were moving due to lack of fuel, her family traveled for 15 kilometers carrying Letta Mikael on a stretcher for nearly 4 hours to a nearby hospital, the Abiy Adi General Hospital.
ساعة 9 كاو غزا تلعلنا كاو منقدي رحوق سلو غعزو.
We started the journey to a hospital nearby at around 3 a.m. But the journey was so long, and since there is no ambulance or any other transportation, we arrived at the hospital at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Things didn't get better for Letta Mikael and her family even after they reached the hospital. The only difference between her house and this place was that there were people wearing white gowns, doctors and nurses running everywhere, but unable to help due to lack of materials and medicines. Letta Mikael finally lost the fight and died at the hospital, surrounded by medical professionals.
We are in a really bad situation. We are in a really bad condition.
If there had been an ambulance, we could have saved her life. The delay caused by lack of ambulance in transportation had a huge impact. Unfortunately, she died in our hand without receiving any kind of help. It's really sad.
Letta Mikael gave birth to both of her children at this very hospital years ago. Brahane says if it wasn't for the siege-induced lack of transportation and medical supplies, Letta Mikael could still have been alive.
She gave birth just fine the first time. She gave birth at this hospital. Mothers used to give birth at health centers or hospitals before the war. If there were enough medical supplies, if the world hadn't overlooked us, she could still have been alive. But because medical supplies still remain scarce, mothers are dying on a daily basis.
Medical director of Abiy Adi General Hospital, Haddush Haile, says that the hospital had lost many infants in the past months and says that Tigray needs an unfettered access to medical supplies based on the peace agreement signed.
We're losing many infants on a daily basis. When the peace agreement was signed a month ago, we hoped we could get back to our normal lives and give an adequate service like we used to. But nothing is changed on the ground. We're still losing patients on a daily basis. The international community needs to pressurize the Ethiopian government to meet the agreement signed on its end and allow unfettered access to medical supplies.
Abiy Adi General Hospital had a capacity to serve more than 120,000 people. People from neighboring Ago were also served here before the war was waged on Tigray. Now, The deaths of children and mothers due to the collapse of health system in Tigray remains a matter of statistics as the world keeps watching with no concrete measures up until this day.
Mass influx of displaced persons into IDP camps has become a huge problem across Tigray. Many are being forced to seek shelter elsewhere as camps can no longer house the thousands in need. Our reporter spoke with family in Abi Adi who traveled for days on foot in search of safety, but now are sleeping out in the open like many due to lack of shelter. Sarah Kulali reports.
The lights from our cameras unveil the horrific condition in which these people are forced to spend the night. The ground is full of ants and the cold wind keeps many from falling asleep. This is the town of Abi Adi in central Tigray, where many have sought shelter after being displaced by the deadly war back home.
I was displaced 4 times, from Rubasa to Adawai, Dedavit, Salakhlacha, and finally Abi Adi.
Mamit Kiros, along with her kids, traveled from Salakhlacha, leaving other family members on the journey.
I left my husband in Salakhlacha. When enemy forces came to the town, I left and traveled on foot with my children. I don't know where my husband is. When heavy artilleries were fired towards us, my daughter got nervous and ran. I don't know where she is right now. Now, I only have these 3 with me, but we were a family of 7. I don't know where my 2 other children are.
My mother was carrying some of our belongings, so I helped her with those and carried my younger siblings when they got tired. They were very hungry during the journey, but I encouraged them that we were approaching the destination.
After traveling on foot for many days in hopes of finding shelter and food, only to find that those who arrived early were sleeping out in the open areas as there were no mattresses and no food available.
It's been 4 days since they arrived here. We haven't gone anywhere to sleep. There is no one to provide us with food. Some are going visiting their relatives around, looking for food. But I can't go to my father's hometown, because it is occupied by the enemies. We don't have any blankets, and our mattress is full of ants and other insects. We're suffering. The children ask me for food. I don't know where I can get any. The people that arrived here before us gave them some food, but I can't get any, as they too are running out of food for them.
Many others have been here for more than a month with no improvement to their living conditions. Although the IDPs say they are happy on the peace agreement, they desperately hope for the implementation.
We are happy that a peace agreement was reached. Even if we haven't seen any changes so far, we're hopeful that once peace prevails, food and medicine will be provided to us. This has to be done soon.
Well, that ends our news for the hour. I'm Mira from Tigray. Thank you for tuning in.